Alright, and let's jump into game and see what they're playing. Any predictions really quick?
Yellow,
Aw.
let's go with yellow. Oh, god damn it. The one time. One fucking time.
So, Salugi rocking the hate seeds. He even made what looks to be so far as a full mythic deck. That's going to
Oh,
be really
wow.
cool to see if it is all mythic.
Oh my goodness. Shout out to Abracam here. I'm not sure if everyone likes them, but I think the mythic cards look really cool, actually. 'Cause like, yeah, the borders are just really nice. Um, Phelbin running what looks to be a variant of our blue list, because he had the Wave Crash Colossus, which I think is normally not that popular. Or it could also be for a while, a lot of people were trying things out with Mystic Beast and Prophet of Tide, so it could be a hybrid of that and 7 cost matters.
Yeah, Felbin going with a pretty slow start. Um, what do you think from Felbin? Should he have gone up one side to the opposite side? Or do you think in this matchup that he wants to go to both?
My normal rule is if I don't have an explosive start, I want to be playing away from red because red's just absolutely terrifying, honestly. They're so grindy. But this start actually could work quite well. Just he's going to have a lot of mana to work with, and that might be what he needs to get through this red deck. Like if he manages to get to triple collecting with these toads by controlling his own 2 wells and getting to its opponent's well, that's the kind of advantage that will let you match them blow for blow.
And this is going to be a chance for Salugi to get a insane trade. If um
Yep.
if Felbin goes to collect with the Toad, the Horsemaster in Salugi's hand setting up to move or to charge down the lane, double collect and trade.
Yeah, I like how Slugi set that up. Like he could have double landed and maybe set up um sort of a more aggressive mountain in the X kind of spot if it wasn't countered by Felbin. But by mountaining, he got to do the ciphers, and he still gets to take the trade with the Horsemaster, so it kind of lines up uh, more neatly. Whereas with the mountain line, you miss the ciphers, and then you end up standing on your new mountain, which means a lot of the benefit of creating it is wasted.
Yeah, and this is one of the awkward things for Felbin is because he's decided to split up to both sides, he's a bit more vulnerable to pings to a creature because then Salugi can take the option of, hey, I want to fight you, or hey, I want to kill off your creature that's in the same lane. And Felbin's gonna pay for it by the fact that Salugi has the Horsemaster.
Yeah.
Now that said, if Felbin top decks like a Windfall or a Lore Thief or something like that, he could just have an explosive turn with these Archons.
Yeah, so if he doesn't get anything, you draw here, right? Because you don't really want to play the Phantasm, but you want to trigger the Gabriel Archons.
Yeah, I think you draw. He could be debating just dropping the Archon, unbounding it, and dropping the other Archon,
Hmm.
as 6
You,
drops are normally pretty good.
you could also drop another lake so that you can play both Archon. Actually, maybe that's better because you still see 2 cards before you quote unquote need to trigger the Archons, but you get to drop both. So sort of one on the right, and then you make a lake up on the right and drop the second. And
Would you drop it like here? Or are you
yeah, yeah.
suggesting like this?
I was suggesting up on the wells since that's quite good later for double collecting. So I think I like that, and then next turn you can double land to get it into the action. I'm not sure. I mean, it doesn't let you kill the axe grinder. Oh well, okay. So he drew in. He got. It wasn't perfect, but I'd call it rewarded because this Beirut is. It's both in its own right insane against red, and it's the second trigger he needs. That's not a phantasm.
Yeah, if Felbin's running Falcon Dives, do you think he'll just drop the Archon on the right and just
I think.
wait, collect, and then,
I
Beirut?
think no matter what, you drop it on the right. You don't want to drop it into the 4-1.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was the option of also dropping Archon and unbounding it,
Mm.
but I guess if you don't choose to Archon unbound, then certainly you don't play just the Archon.
Yeah, I mean, so most people have been running 3 unbounds, and I think they are quite likely correct. But I had 2 for the longest time, and it might be because I'm too sort of I look for the best unbounds rather than just going, oh, actually, I can just unbound everything in its value. So I don't know. You might be right here, and I'm too conservative and just playing a 6-drop with for 2 cards. It's fine. I mean, almost every single 6-drop in the game will survive that 4-1. So yeah, you could be right.
But then again, this is a open qualifier, and if phelbin wants to try his hardest and not chance it, then certainly if he had done the Archon unbounded into something like a, Gabrian Noble, he'd regret it for quite a while. So
Yep.
I definitely understand not ever wanting to gamble when it's the chance to not be rewarded.
I think I like this. It's actually going to work out quite well. Like, oh, is that it?
Whoa! That is awesome! Now he
Is
can
it?
judge Phantasm if he wants?
Yeah, there's actually so many options. Like you can judge Phantasm and um, punish it.
Judge
Lake
Unbound?
you could Lake Beirut trade and then unbound the 6-2 and have Beirut going. You could judge unbound. There's actually so many different ways of playing this.
I think what I'm looking at is actually just unbounding the judge. I was thinking at first you wanted to Phantasm, but then you're playing a bit into AoE.
Oh,
Now,
well, that was unfortunate.
yeah, a bit sad.
So he okay, so I quite like this double land. Like normally you want to Lake above the Archon because that's where you summon things and are able to double collect. But actually, if its opponent's not going to be contesting this side at all, he can just double land Lake, and he still has the double collect. But he didn't. Um, yeah, he gets there faster, and it's also faster if he wants to counterattack. So that's pretty cool. Other things to note: this I think that someone might correct me that this 3/4 is the actual worst 7-drop you can get off Unbound. So
Well,
that's unfortunate.
yeah, I know you can get the 2/5 cannon carrier that gives something ranged. So it's just like whether you
Okay.
think a 2/5 is better or worse than a 3/4.
Yeah, but we looked at some point, and was it 70% of 7 drops are pretty good value? I think it was like 70% of the time you're actively happy, and then there's the cabin carriers and bold Wagners of the world. So I like how he did this though, because he managed to maintain enough mana that he can drop Beirut and trigger the Sarkon. Also, holy crap, I just realized how much mana Salugi had. Jesus. That, yeah, that was actually insane. So Felbin getting somewhat okay, well, Windfall's really good.
So
But
he
he
can
could have,
collect Windfall, draw a card. I guess you draw it first, right? See what you get.
you only have 2 summoning spots and you can't summon Beru. Is
Well,
that better than going Archon Beru?
isn't it more likely for you to Phantasm anyway?
What are you
Maybe
phantasming?
maybe I'm wrong. The 3/2, and then
Oh,
drop in a 6/6 Archon.
oh, I don't know. I think I would just Archon Beru here. Because everything there trades pretty well. Other than 3/3, which is unfortunate. But, whereas the Phantasm, I'm not sure it achieves much. It just lines up you to have 2/5/5s against 2/5/6s.
Fair enough. It could be tricky for where you develop the Archon. Looks like he's going to set it up to be double collecting instead of protecting
That,
face, but
that's
if
really
Salugi
bold.
just tens him, then
Yeah,
he's vulnerable to double Flame Burst for the rest of the game, or
yeah.
Flame Burst Ciphers if he had the
This
Ciphers for the
Salugi
3/2.
Yeah, this would be my first reaction, just where I would have drawn first, but or maybe you even +1. But either way, you 10 them and just drop the King's Faithful and say, can you really clear out all 3 of these with 1 creature in position?
Yeah, this is going to be very hard for Phelbin to deal with.
It's interesting that he put the King's Faithful in range of the 6/6. I think that was likely a mistake, but I'm not sure it's going to matter.
From what's in hand so far, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, so Felbin has to draw, but what's he even drawing for? There's no Unbound you could cast on the 5/6s that would make it not lethal. Can you get a taunt? But you can't get the taunt in position. Yeah.
Yeah, that's game. So Salugi's gonna start this up a game with his mid-range red deck, and we'll see what phelbin can bring to try and counter that deck. Now, if you're phelbin, you just used up your blue deck. What do you want to bring?
Against red.
Because you don't really want to play anything yellow, right? Do you think maybe if
Well,
he has 3 wishes, he'd bring that?
I yeah, I like Three Wishes and yellow. Well, or rather, I
Oh,
think
the
they're both
mirror.
fine. Okay. So Selvin showing he has the Firestorm tech, which it can either do nothing in this matchup if the opponent only plays things with 4 toughness, or it can just win you the game on its own when it clears like a Fire Elemental and a um Outlaw Ranger. So I'm not sure if you keep it if the rest of your hand isn't good, but yeah.
Yeah, I think I've kept it once or twice before, and it's because I knew the matchup and I already had an Axe Grinder in hand.
Yeah. So Kelvin Felben rolled the dice there a bit. Um, Mono Red can get appalling hands because they have a decent number of cards they want early, but a lot of the cards they don't want early, they really don't want early, like Hit Seed, like Firebringer. So by keeping the Cypher's Wrath, Felben was potentially opting into a hand that looked like Cypher's Wrath, Bombslinger, Hate Seed. But yeah, I mean, it rewarded him because Cyphers is a very good card to have here if you do have the Gatherer, and he hit a Gatherer. So yeah.
Yeah.
Other things to talk about. He has Firebomb. That's pretty unusual.
Firebomb is really good against chargers and these 4 life creatures that red brains. Firebomb could just be that next level meta call.
Yeah, it also kills archers, which I mean, it doesn't efficiently kill archers, but the thing about the archer decks is without archers, they don't do anything efficient either.
Plus, sometimes they develop the archers in front of their orb and they're not collecting. And so if you're collecting, you can afford to spend a little bit more to punish them.
Yeah. So yeah, Felbin, as mentioned, already rewarded for having this Cypher's Wrath. I think you have to land forwards here if you're Felbin because um, people play 3 bomb slingers.
Yeah, well,
Uh,
I mean, I think it's for the reason of getting your own bomb slinger spot because your opponent wants to mountain here, so you
yeah.
want your mountain to be here to stop Axe
Oh,
Grinders from getting
interesting.
buffed.
So, okay, so by putting it into the wells, he's wait, oh,
Oh,
never
I
mind.
think he miscounted his
Oh my
lands.
god. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, Felbin. That.
Oh no!
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I mean, you could see what he was going to do, right? Like, he moused over the ciphers. So he was thinking, what's the best places I can get my lands? Well, it's double landing here, and then either I get the axe grinder spot, or they're forced to land backwards rather than forwards to stop it.
Yeah,
Or
and Phelbin, unfortunately, is looking at the worst thing possible as the 5-2 hits into the 4-3, but what's even worse is Salugi had the option of even Bomb Slingering, which,
yeah,
are you surprised he didn't opt into Bomb Slinger? Do you think the
I
Pest
I
is
like
better?
I like trading off the 5-2 here, and the pest's in a really good position, and Felbin is 1 turn away from um his own bomb slinger. I think that's what would decide it. You have to play the hit seed, right? It potentially clicks to her. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but one of the downsides to trading and playing the Pest is now you're down a creature on the board, and so your opponent only needs 1 removal card, whereas
Yeah.
with the other line, he would need a double removal card, and he was only on 1 mountain, so Bomb Slinger and Firestorm weren't available.
Yeah, that's fair. You could be right, but well, either way, Felbin's in this despite his mistake. And he actually denied the axe grinder spot, so it worked out pretty well, all things considered.
Right. Something interesting that Salugi and Donkey have started to do in their mid-range red deck is run Blood Obelisk.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. Um, it might do some work here. We'll see. As Felbin, my instinct would just be to maybe make some lands and pass with the intention of ground shakering next turn. But hitting and ciphering is also a decent option. I think that means he's gonna hidden cipher because you can't really do this and then leave his creature alive. Okay,
It's a
which
bit
means,
weird to step over double land in the first place, though, because there's no way you're ahead enough to race him.
well, I think you either needed to make lands offensively or lands defensively because um, as powerful as mid-range red is, it's quite bad at actually yeah, it's quite bad at maneuvering around the battlefield and doesn't really play enough removal to project pressure if it doesn't have lands to drop creatures and drop bomb slingers. So you either need to sort of be the one going aggressive and force your opponent to be making the lands, or force the opponent to lose the race if the opponent just tries to respond by playing things on your face, or you need to play the lands defensively beforehand. Um, but yeah, I don't mind it, but it has led to everything being cleared up. Speaking of tech, Salugi's running King's Faithful, which fell off for a while, I think mostly because all the blue decks ran Falcon Dive and red decks ran Ground Shaker. But Falcon Dive's been falling off, and I think Falcon Dive in general is worse than Ground Shaker because Ground Shaker is so expensive that they probably can't stop you hitting something for 4 before they find another removal spell.
Well,
Uh,
another one of the issues too is just the fact that things like Battletoads trade into it at
yeah,
an advantage to the blue player. Like those are a lot of punishes to the faithfuls, but what this could be is, hey, everyone's playing archers or everyone's playing chargers. I need this neutral card that I can contest those with
yeah, I
earlier.
lost the game to I think it was Catron on ladder, where he played a King's Faithful, and I tried to go up the same side as it as yellow, and I kind of took an okay trade on it with Flashwind's Campfire on my charger to kill it, but then he just ground shaked, and it's like, wow, I'm so behind here. I committed so much to this King's Faithful. And had that been any other creature, pretty much, I either Soul Drain it because it's like a 5/2, or I can kill it using just the fact my charger was about 8 attack after all the spells I played. Ooh, the positioning from Salugi is interesting. So he's worried about what I was mentioning before, is like it being hard to defend as red, and he's going to be well. Okay, it's not going to matter because he has ciphers, but uh, notably where he played it meant that if Phelbin was going to do that land and make that mountain there, Salugi would have been in range to catch it with the Horsemaster.
This is really awkward for Slugi now.
Yeah, I mean, this is those lands from Phelbin paying off. I mean, normally, like if that ground shaker was anywhere else, so you goes great, play Firebringer between the wells. It's a 5/5, so you almost certainly can't contest it and stop me double collecting. And I'm happy as a clown or
Are you
whatever.
sure about that? Because I think it was actually better off for Felbin if he had developed it between the wells.
I think that either way, it's going to be damn hard for Slugi
Yeah, I
though.
mean, I think it's over for Slugi because his Keen's Faithful was punished by Groundshaker Ciphers, and then Felbin already had this very small lead in Feria. But in terms of positioning of the Groundshaker, setting it up to double collect, first being able to hit face, I mean, the hitting face is going to close out the game faster with your lead, but there was the chance to snowball your lead even more by putting it between the wells.
Yeah, I guess it's close. I mean, one thing that playing aggressively with this ground shaker does is it denies Slugi the option of just drawing multiple hate seeds back to back to come back, or indeed to do his own aggressive attempt. Because in a few turns' time, even if Felbin ended up in control of the wells, he might just die to a Firebringer being played on his face. So perhaps he's taking this out of the equation because I just don't think Salugi can actually defend this. Like the land positions mean he can't bomb slinger, and that's so big.
So what is Salugi looking for here? Because Outland Ranger is not enough.
I guess. Hmm, I mean, main deck campfire would be insane. Well, it wouldn't because there's a ground shaker, but it would be better than like everything else. I think he's looking for the cogwheel at the top of
Oh,
the.
Your mic just adjusted volume. I can't even hear you.
Hello?
Um, 1 sec to turn you up. It sounded like you scratched your mic and then your mic automatically turned itself down.
Oh, sorry, my bad. That probably did happen. Um,
There we go.
yeah, I think Salugi should be looking for the cogwheel at the top right. I think if this Firebringer was one bigger, he has a reasonable amount of comeback potential, but it's just going to be impossible to stop phelbin hitting him twice over 2 turns. In fact, he can't even stop this ground shaker. Like, he's not technically dead because he can horse master to block a square, but it doesn't really achieve anything.
That awkward pass a turn. So, from Felbin, we have a couple options.
Mm.
I think we'll probably just see a land for the Axe Grinder to hit into the 5/5, and then another ground shaker come down and hit face.
Oh, that's interesting. You want the 5/5 to hit the Firebringer rather than the 5/6?
That's what I was thinking.
I think I
Was
would have.
the 5/4 trades into the 5/5, you drop a ground shaker and you 5 him, and then
Oh,
there's no possible card combo that can stop you from 5ing him next turn.
I
It's
guess
it's
we're
literally
probably
impossible,
both
right?
finding multiple ways where it's impossible to come back. I was thinking ground shaker steps down, hit 5/5, you hit him for 5, and he can't ground shaker, and it wouldn't be enough anyway. So you can't really be punished for having a 5/1 in play.
That feeling when all your lines lead to
Yeah,
guaranteed win.
yeah, pretty sick.
Though he actually took a different line than both of us.
Yeah,
Is there a chance for punish? There is a chance for punish, right?
is, is there?
If
Nah,
no,
no.
never mind. I take it back. There's no chance.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, if
Oh
Hatespeed had
wait.
spawned, maybe,
Oh,
but
never
oh,
mind.
nah. It,
Damn
I
it.
mean, I like if it was in his deck, I guess Campfire Plant sounds lethal, but that's not particularly useful.
The campfire plant play. No one ever sees it coming.
I mean, they wouldn't. Would you see it coming?
I guess I wouldn't. That'd be next
Yeah,
level.
but yeah, it's actually. I mean, I've been saying it this whole time, but it's very hard for Red to defend if their lands aren't in position. And like Felbin took quite a lot of turns to get those lands set up, but once he did, it pretty much cut off all bomb slingers. It stopped Salugi summoning in range of his creatures when they first came out. You know, it gave him collection. Like it's definitely a really potent land placement once you get there.
Oh, my green screen's messing up. I'll have to turn that off for now. But players are ready and they're going to jump into the final match of the round. This is game point for either player.
Okay, so Salugi's got. I'm gonna just call it a sack. I mean, we haven't seen any yellow cards, but there's no way he's running Village Elder and Hermit if it's not. Okay, there we go. So he's running the Deathwalkers, which is, yeah, I mean, people seem kind of split on Deathwalker versus Shaitan Assassin, and I think here Salugi's probably going to wish it was Assassin, because while Ground Shaker is good against Assassin, pretty much every red creature is good against Deathwalker. So this matchup, I mean, it's pretty interesting. Both of these decks um, can try and claim to be the most grindy deck in the format, pretty much. Uh, it's yeah, just Sykes value off Bone Collectors and the Soul Eater is insane, and then Red gets so much free stats from Hate Seeds, and the creatures have such high power that it kind of counters Green a lot, which is unfortunate since Green is meant to beat Red. But yeah, just Green has so much of its sort of power invested in high toughness, and then you have things like Shadim Pest, which deals 6 damage before,
Well,
and you wish you were playing a 4/1 instead of a 4/10.
just to weigh in a little bit, I think green on average does beat red, but I guess that's up for debate one until we
Yeah,
can
I
showcase it
mean,
a bit.
it's up for debate, but certainly red with things like fire elemental is going to get more value than if red was just trying to throw removal spells, or like damage-based removal at green's creatures.
Right, right. If they're running like multiple fire bombs, flame bursts, ciphers, they don't really get too much value against green, as all of green's creatures are really healthy creatures.
Yeah, whereas things like fire elemental, things like Shadim Pest, things like Axe Grinder, they all punch above their weight.
So I think Felben had a few options there. The other one was the double land, and next turn you can fire elemental firebomb, and that's what I was
Yeah.
looking at.
So yeah, I quite like that. It gets you to 2 red on the same turn, and it's quite unlikely you get denied the Axe Grinder spot unless the sack player both plays Earthcraft and Druid. That would actually kind of suck though if you double landed and they went Earthcraft Desert.
Well, I think they would only be punished if they had the soul drain, right? They desert, and then they earthcraft a desert,
Yes.
and then they soul drain.
Yeah. Desert Wind Soldier. But either way, there aren't that many hands which would punish your line. Um, so Salugi is just digging in on his one well. Um, you see this quite a lot out of decks that are really confident in their scaling with time more than their scaling with mana. Like Three Wish does this kind of start as well, where you just go, I only get one well really, and you're gonna probably have about 1.5 because sometimes I'll deny you getting the collect, and other times I won't. But I'm just, you never get aggressive lands ever. I can play anything I want defensively. Um, and yeah, I expect to win later with Three Wish / Soul Eater.
What do you think of the land placement out of Felben? He had a bunch of options with how he developed the fire elemental, whether he just did a mountain fire alley, mountain above, and firebomb, double landing into the wells and getting the spot there.
Mm.
Now, in my experience with the matchup, um, being able to move between the wall with one creature is really nice, because what would end up happening to me is my front creature would die and then my bottom creature couldn't double collect.
Yeah, I think it's nice mostly because it makes sure you have a safe collector to collect the top well. Um, look at how defensively Slugi's playing. Like the first creature to stick its head out every turn is probably going to die, but having these lands between the wells means you can kind of create a Congo line where each turn you have something in the back that can step forwards and get the collect. So yeah, I really like it as a choice here, against Slugi's lands. Also, holy crap, Salugi just turned it on. So, so man, you spent all 9 of his mana he now has. Let's see, 28 points of stats?
This is going to
Yeah.
be pretty nice for Felben, though, because his bomb slingers, by the looks of it, are going to deal 8 damage on their own.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Felbin's in a decent... Yeah, he's in a decent spot. Like, he's going to be taking quite nice trades with things like Bomb Slingers, but he's also kind of inherently a bit behind because he's been spending, say, he spent 4 mana on a 5/2, which got him good lands, but Sugi's saying I don't need these lands, I'm defending.
Yeah, by the
Um,
looks of it, Felben's debating between dropping the Axe Grinder or doing the Bomb Slinger. And if he Axe Grinders, he has the option of landing. So I'm a bit curious to see what he ends up opting into. I think the Bomb Slinger is the go-to play.
I'd like Singer, but I kind of fine too. As long as you move the 5/2, you are pretty much assured you're gonna collect. So that's really nice. At some point, it might be an option for Felbin to just sort of double land to the right and just start triple collecting, but I think at the moment it's too important to win this first skirmish. And he's already controlling 2 wells, so yeah. I wonder what you do with Salugi here. You really want to get more lands out for when you draw your Soul Eaters, but his current hand is it's not the hand you're looking for.
I think I would just play the Elder on the Forest. But then again, your opponent goes into 3 Faria, 4-5. They could +1 and Ground Shaker, and you have a creature that's vulnerable. Maybe you don't want to play into it anymore. It's definitely a tough choice.
When you hit with the, oh, either way you were left with a 1 toughness creature. I mean, was there any love for putting the Elder on the other side? Because if you landed this turn and landed next turn, you could have set it up to collect. But I guess then a lot of your good work trying to land block the opponent gets undone.
So I think for sure I want to see a draw out of phelbin, but then the line that's looking tempting to me is the 3-2 hits into the 8-5, you cipher it, and then you just leave the 5-2 where it is, and you get another turn of double drawing for Ground Shaker.
So,
Or Firestorm.
I mean, well, asking it again, is this the turn where you just drop an Axe Grind on the right hand side? Because the 5-2 is going to double collect regardless.
I think this matchup, the longer it goes, the more it favors Salugi. I think Salugi does have more value in his deck, especially with having the Last Nightmares in his version. So, I think what I would normally do is not develop the Axe Grinder on the right, because I would be worried that I'm just going to get outscaled.
Yeah, I think eventually Soul Eater outscales pretty much everything in the game, including Three Wishes. So I wouldn't be against your, like what you're saying here, that he needs, that he needs to push. So he landed some more, which is, I can get behind that too. Like, I've mentioned it before, but Sugi committed a lot to this land block, and yeah, I mean, it was a really good land block. Phelbin's had to already create 2 more lands to try and get around it, and if Salugi lands again this turn north of the prairies, Phelbin still won't have anything that's directly in range of Salugi's face. So I mean, Salugi's buying a lot of time, but he doesn't actually have the Soul Eaters yet, so.
This is a tough call for Salugi.
Yeah.
The Axe Grinder being played actually set up a lot of pressure on Salugi.
I guess there are 3 lines, right? You can just land, cut off, play another Elder maybe, and just like take the trade, even though it kind of sucks. You could also land Nightmare the 5-4 and kill the 3-2, and then if the opponent doesn't have removal, maybe that's what Sugi's going for. I think this is a situation where you say every play sucks, so I might as well force them to have the removal spell.
Yeah, and
That 1 turn too late, Ground Shaker.
yeah, this is where I say if you believe in the Capu top decks, it would have worked out.
Should have won.
But
Yeah. And Phelbin has to draw though, because he wants that
yeah,
removal.
now he has to draw certainly. He's looking for Bomb Slinger or Ciphers.
Well, actually, we say he has. So he could also trade
Okay,
Ground Shaker. No, maybe that's
to be
better.
fair, I think he's in a fantastic spot. Like I think he's in the lead by
Yeah.
a ton. So he could solidify his lead by developing the Ground Shaker to
Yeah,
kill off the 1-1.
I actually like that because Salugi can't Soul Eater yet, at least for 1 more turn, and I mean, I guess he can collect now. He's finally managed to get his lands all the way around to the other side. But yeah, I think I'd just Ground Shaker here, as much as I love drawing. Okay, so is that going to be hit to then?
Well, you have to hit now, right?
Yeah, you have to hit. Okay.
I guess he's just really worried about Soul Eaters being played as a bigger creature than his Ground Shaker, and so he's saying, you know what, I can't play the Ground Shaker somewhere where it can just be blocked for a couple turns.
Well, that's the Soul Eater. It's only 6/6 at the moment. So one thing it's about Soul Eater is, it scales absolutely ridiculously, and honestly, it's already a 6/6 for 5 with Flying Charge 3, which makes it better than like 99% of cards in the game, in any state. But why it has absolutely unbelievable scaling is eventually it's not a 6/6 for 5, it's like a 14/14 for 5. And Salugi's not there yet. Like, the first Soul Eater isn't going to end the game, despite what we've been saying. Needs the second or third, or for you to actually get quote-unquote unlucky and not draw any Soul Eaters till you're quite far into your deck.
With how phelbin's being super aggressive, I wonder if he's just gonna step up and ground shaker adjacent to the orb. Though what I'm looking at as being my tempting play is to just ground shaker um, in the top left spot and draw a card. So I would draw first. Looks like he's going for a middle ground. He's gonna set up the ground shaker to collect, and it's still able to hit face if it doesn't get blocked.
Yeah, so Phelbin's forcing himself to make a lot of lands, but if the game goes long enough, it is really nice lands. Oh, Tessa. That is a cool card. According to Cafu, it's the best legendary in the game.
Wait, I said it was the best legendary if it was a blue card.
You backpedaled. You originally just said it was the best legendary in the game. But anyway, however good or not Tessa is, it's not what he needs here, I think. So out comes the Soul Eater. Phelbin is one Outland Ranger away from just wrecking everything. Like, can you imagine if he drew Outland Ranger here, put it between the wells on the left, double campfire at the ground shaker? That would just be game over right there. Luckily for Salugi, he doesn't have to imagine it. It's not happening.
Oh, here comes a Fireburner. So Fireburner currently is a 6/6. It's not too threatening. At the moment, Soul Eater is outscaling it. I think from Phelbin, the most tempting play is to campfire the Hate Seed, hit into face, and then play Axe Grinder.
Why are you campfiring the Hate Seed?
To play around Wind Soldier.
That doesn't
Maybe
do
that's
any...
not
Wait, that
enough in
doesn't
the
do
first place.
anything against Wind Soldier. Wind Soldier with the Bone Collector can kill it, even if it campfires, and it kills the Bone Collector either way. I think you just for him step over with the Ground Shaker and drop the Axe Grinder behind. And just save the campfire. If you had Cyphers campfiring, the 4/5 would be really good. But... So Salugi... I mean, this is a really weird spot. Like, Salugi... As we keep mentioning, he eventually has inevitability with Soul Eaters, but at the moment he's getting kind of overwhelmed. So he could play a lot of Bone Collectors and then start to grow, but it's going to take a while for him to get big enough.
He actually has a really tempting play to me, where the Bone Collector steps onto the desert, you play another Bone Collector, your Soul Eater were to hit in, and then you just drop another Elder, and you end up with two Bone Collectors, an Elder and a Soul Eater blocking, and the Bone Collector is buffed to be a 3/4 and the other one's a 2/4.
I think if
Now
he
that
hadn't Soul Eater, that would have been quite a good line. However, he did draw a Soul Eater, which I assume means he's going to kill the Hate Seed and then drop a Soul Eater.
Yeah.
Have I mentioned this card's quite good?
Yeah, well, I have mentioned that Phelbin's on a clock where, as
Yeah.
this game progresses, Salugi's just gonna start getting these massive Soul Eaters.
On the other side of the equation, if Phelbin kills both of these and drops a Hate Seed between the wells on the left, his clock's... It's not completely gone, but I mean, there's a pretty good chance Salugi just doesn't draw the other Soul Eater for a while. And at that point, all his lands would really kick in. Like, he'd have the ability to triple collect and be so threatening to Salugi's face that Salugi would probably only be able to collect one well.
So the play you're suggesting is you can't fire the Ground Shaker, you hit into the 7/7, you +1 Ground Shaker in any of the spots, and then the 5/4 finishes off the 8/4 Soul Eater, because this will grow one.
Well, the play I was suggesting was draw a Hate Seed, but failing that...
Well, if you fail to draw, you can't fire Ground Shaker
Yeah,
after
no.
that.
Yeah, no. Since he doesn't actually have the Hate Seeds yet. I get it was more of a long-term thing. Like, Salugi, by drawing his Soul Eaters quite early, it kept him in a game he would have just lost. but it's also removing a lot of the potency from his deck. I think I liked killing both Soul Eaters as you suggested, and then dropping the Ground Shaker on the left in range of face, because realistically it wasn't going to double collect anyway. So you might as well Okay, actually, but that's probably because I'm not aggressive enough, because this line, in retrospect, looks very good. Um, can he even survive it?
Yeah, he can full clear. So the 8-8 can hit into the 7-7. Wind Soldier hits the 6-7 to be a 6-4, and then
And yeah,
Bone
that's
Collector will have
exactly enough
grown
damage.
to trade.
So in fact, you can do that and collect with the 8-8.
Yeah.
It's always really tough in these aggro situations to know if you're in sort of if you've got a lockdown where they can't actually respond, or if you're just going to throw away the potential to sort of out macro them, as it were.
That said,
And just get
Phelbin could just be saying, you know what, even if he can clear, Ground Shaker and Double Flame Burst is lethal damage, unless he's running like commands. So maybe
yeah.
Phelbin's just saying, you know what, I'll burn him the rest of the way if my creatures get cleared off.
I guess that has to be Plan B, right? Though I think his Plan A was win. But yeah, this was actually sick for Salugi. He gets two Bone Collectors go. Well, actually, I guess one goes, one dies. But yeah, he's got one big Bone Collector, and he's got this 10-3, which the big problem with the burn them out plan. Okay, he's got the answer, which is really nice.
Okay, so if
You
he
need,
draws into like Hate Seeds or something like
yeah,
that, it could be really good for him.
if as soon as Felbin draws one of his hate seeds, but I guess he's only got two left. Well, yeah, okay. If Felbin draws a hate seed, he's probably going to be ahead up until the last Soul Eater comes out. But he pretty much has to win before that Soul Eater comes out, because I mean, it's already an 11-11 charge 3 now. Like it's insane. Interesting. So Salugi just stepped back with that. So he's not looking to collect. He's just trying to protect his face. Yeah, yeah. I don't hate it. So are you trying to play the long game then and put it between the belts? Yeah, I like that. I mean, mm, well, actually, is giving them a 6-9 bone collector a good idea? Oh well, it's not a good idea if you play the ground shaker here. I don't think. I mean, bomb slinger kills it, so or would have killed it, but he doesn't know. He doesn't have enough mana. So Salugi is now completely in the driver's seat. So I think I'm wondering why he's not sort of setting up to collect very much. Like I guess he's playing around the 2-1 being ciphered or something. Like, and if you did cipher, I think you cipher the 5-2. Yeah, you have to draw. Like you've reached the point where just tight play with standard cards is going to win you the game, and got to the point where you're just praying to top deck double hate seed in a row.
Oh my god, I just realized I've been muted for the past, like, while of talking. I don't know how much has been missed.
That's a
But,
problem.
yeah, what I've just been saying, I guess you've been hearing most of it because Helios has been discussing the plays too, is that Felbin's best line is probably just waiting for double flame burst. And what I was pointing out is that the ground shaker defensively, or on the left, as a collector, just gives you so many turns of drawing into your flame burst that I would have liked to have seen that.
Yeah, I think I would have liked it too. Um, but I mean, Yeah, it's a race now. Like Salugi needs to draw his, or either find a way to go aggressive with the cards he has, which is actually possible. Like he could double land now, for example. Um, he's got Tethra coming up actually. Like he can play Tethra next turn, and that's a potential 11 power in range of Phelbin's face. So like Phelbin needs to draw double Flame Blast, but he really doesn't have long. In fact, he sees about 6 cards.
You know, we haven't really discussed it. Have we seen any flame bursts from Felbin?
Yeah, I was I was just thinking the same thing actually. What we have seen from him is Firebomb,
Right.
and we haven't seen any other obvious cards, so he might not actually have it.
Yeah, if he's cut the flame burst, then I understand a bit more his ground shake replacement, because then maybe you eventually bomb slinger it off to finish it.
Maybe.
This
I
this
don't know.
is
I think
really rough now if he doesn't have these flame bursts.
yeah.
Has he
But
already played a cipher?
um
Because triple cipher could lead to lethal.
I think he played a Cipher in the early game.
Yes,
Whatever.
he played one. I remember now.
So if you know what the opponent's deck list is, you probably Cipher the 2-1, right? Because it delays Tesla for a turn.
It's interesting. I don't think I would play around Tetra, but
I don't think I would if I didn't know the list, but if they have 9 cards remaining and I do know the list, and I know I just need to stall for something, I think delaying Tesla return
right.
is pretty big.
Well, if he draws flame burst, he has lethal. But I mean, does he
He
run it?
has.
There it is.
Oh,
That's lethal.
oh, wow, he got there.
So Felbin will take this match.
It was bad to be Salugi.